The markets are on edge ahead of next week's all-important meeting from the Federal Reserve. Here with more analysis on what all this means for investors, I'm joined now by Darrell Cronk, the president of Wells Fargo Investment Institute. And Darrell, it's great to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, so this is a critical moment for the markets. What are you telling clients right now?
Well, absolutely, it's a critical moment, and I find it a little bit ironic that we are days away from the Fed meeting, and the markets and the Fed still are somewhat unsure about what they want to do. What I would say is, should the Fed raise rates or will they? Should they? They absolutely should. The U.S. economy has more people employed, making more money, producing more goods and services, spending more, and corporate profits are at record levels than ever before. If that's not a recipe to raise rates, I'm not sure what is, Scott.
But at the same time, a lot of people are worried. We just had a huge correction in the markets.
Yes.
What if the Fed does something of a mini rate hike? So not 25 basis points, but maybe something a little less. Could that, number one, happen? And if so, would that even spook the markets more? Because that would signal, well, the economy can't handle a 25 basis point rate hike.
Yeah, it's a good point. So going back to the will they, we don't think they will. Our probabilities are still tilted away from September. But to your point of could they do a half a hike, if you will, I don't think so. There's not really a precedence for that. Matter of fact, I think that would give the markets more uncertainty than certainty. So I think that would be a bad idea, and I would doubt that the Fed would have that on the table as a consideration.
All right, although if the Fed does pull the trigger next week, I mean, will that result in an immediate sell-off?
I don't think it will, actually. I think in some ways the market really wants to get this first Fed hike behind it, Scott. So by eliminating that uncertainty of will they, won't they, and when will they, I think the markets could focus on the right things, which are fundamentals, valuations, earnings for the fourth quarter. Remember, the fourth quarter of the year is seasonally the strongest quarter of the year for the stock market. So we're heading into that literally less than 30 days away.
All right, you mentioned fundamentals. Let's take a more longer-term look at the markets. What sectors do you like right now?
So we still think that the economic recovery is intact. We don't believe the U.S. Stock market has set highs in this recovery. So either later this year in 2016, it will set highs again. So we want to be more tilted towards cyclical sectors. That means information technology, that means industrials, and that means consumer discretionary, all of which we can actually find some really nice value in right now.
All right, what about the energy sector? I mean, we just had a note out from Goldman Sachs today saying oil could go to $20 a barrel.
So we're neutral on the energy sector right now. We're not overweighted, not underweighted. I think if there's a tilt or a lean here, there's getting to be great value there. We're not there yet. So I think you've got to be a little patient as an investor. I'd be careful about legging in too quickly here. But I think you're starting to tilt the equation more towards greater value than to move away from the energy space.
But if oil goes down to $20 a barrel, is that game over for the energy sector?
If oil goes down to $20 a barrel, then there's something else fundamentally wrong in the global economy. Something has gone off the rails on us, right? Either China's growth has decelerated materially, deflation has become an issue or a problem for us. The supply-demand fundamentals do not suggest to us $20 a barrel. So we think it stays more in this kind of upper 30s, lower to mid 40s is where we think we'll finish the year. And actually, as you look out in 2016 and 2017, higher oil prices.
All right, Darrell, we'll leave it there. Darrell Cronk, it's great to have you here in studio. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
I'm Scott Gamm, and you're watching The Street.